Hello, people. The elephant in the room, the elephant in the room for the foreseeable future in the Democratic primary race is going to be that Joe Biden's cognitive capacities are obviously diminishing. And that's an awkward subject for people to discuss, especially if you're a rival candidate, because you don't want to come across as ageist. I think that's a reasonable concern. There's nothing to say that somebody in their upper 70s can't be totally competent if they exhibit that competence regularly. But in Biden's case, there's just too much flubbing and too much false starts, too many instances in which he obviously struggles to string together coherent thoughts for people to ignore this any longer. Does anybody seriously think that Donald Trump is going to ignore the fact that Joe Biden often fails to complete sentences in a way that people can understand as communicated by a competent adult? No. Now, Trump also struggles with that at times in his own way. But you can pretty much always understand what Trump is saying, even if his diction sometimes falters. But with Biden, there are many instances in just the past couple days where he begins to articulate a thought and then diverts in a way that is totally incongruous with the thought that he initially tried to express. So he's very scatterbrained. And that's why he's mostly sticking to prepared remarks. There was an event tonight called the Wing Ding Dinner, or the Wing Ding fundraiser, that's held in Iowa every year. So, of course, the candidates all go. And they give a couple minute long address. And most of the candidates were just speaking extemporaneously. They know their stump speech, and they know the basic points that they would make in sort of an introductory fashion at an event like this. But Biden had to stick to sort of a scripted set of talking points, essentially. He is losing the ability to talk off the cuff in a way that will look at all flattering for him. And people say, oh, Biden's been like this forever. Yeah, Biden hasn't always been the most articulate person in the world. But I've been going back and watching his debates from the 2007-2008 cycle. And every now and then he'll stumble over a phrasing or something, or he won't express a thought perfectly articulately, as we all do on occasion. But if you compare then to now, there's just simply no denying that he is undergoing a period of decline, which, again, is not all that surprising for somebody who's going on 77 years old. So the question is, how did other candidates discuss this? Again, it's awkward. You have to do it gingerly, but it's unavoidable. My theory is that it would be a lot easier to convince Democrats, who now, by and large, by huge majorities, view Biden as the most electable candidate to go up against Trump. There was another poll that came out today from Survey USA where Biden has a strong national lead, and an even greater percentage of people say that Biden's the most electable candidate against Trump. So how do you puncture that argument? I don't think the best way to go about doing that is to call the vice president and most trusted confidant of the first black president a racist. I think that tactic has been shown to have been fruitless. Kamala Harris got some buzz at the behest of the media when she went down that route after during the first debate, but she's since not really been able to sustain that minor flurry of goodwill that she temporarily engendered. And Biden's numbers hasn't gone down at all. In fact, you can argue that they're stronger than they were before, because he's managed to sustain the support of nearly a third of the Democratic electorate, notwithstanding the onslaught of attacks that have been rained down upon him. So the racism attack hasn't worked. The Me Too, Creepy Joe attacks have not worked. What theoretically could work? Well, it's the issue of his cognition. Just put together the most disturbing clips in that respect in a montage and let people decide for themselves whether they think that this individual is truly the most electable person to go up against Trump and run a ruling campaign and then also run the presidency for 4 years when he's going to be into his 80s in this condition. At a certain point, you think that there would be a segment of Democratic operatives, people maybe in the Obama world, people who have known Biden for decades, who might want to intervene and say, Joe, this isn't working out particularly well. But because of his obvious stumbles every single day, but as long as he maintains 30+% of support of the electorate, meaning in the primaries, then he's not going to have a sufficient cause to get out of the race or to reevaluate his life choices. And the other candidates are going to have to address this head on at some point. So be on the lookout for that, because it's happening. It's also wrong to call his missteps gaffes, Gaffe. That's a term that only really appears in the political punditry lexicon. And generally, the term gaffe connotes when a politician makes a statement that's embarrassing in some way, or says something uncouth, or phrases a statement in a way that maybe sort of bungles what the meaning they were trying to convey was. But for Biden, the word gaffe is not really applicable. He's not making gaffes, he's making cognitive malfunctions. So by using the word gaffe, you're actually insulating him from scrutiny, because in the public mind, Biden's persona is already known to encompass the whole gaffe instinct. To phrase it another way, people are already aware that Biden is considered to be prone to gaffes. So if you're saying that what these recent malfunctions are just gaffes, then you're not undermining the public perception of him in any way that will actually damage his political prospects. You have to introduce a new narrative on Biden beyond just guy who does gaffes in order to really cut at the core of why he has the support he does. So yes, this criticism will have to be introduced at some point, or else the Democrats are going to have a very strong chance of nominating somebody who honestly should be living out his days in gentle retirement, not subjecting himself to this kind of extreme scrutiny. All right, people, just wanted to do a quick little update on that, because this issue has been gnawing at me all day. I feel as though the media is not doing a good job in portraying what is happening with Biden, and probably are, in effect, insulating him from the kind of criticism that will be necessary to actually undercut his chances. And if anybody has a quick super chat, happy to address it as long as it's not crazy. Otherwise, leave it there for tonight. And I will count down from 10 in my mind. And then everybody can go on their merry way. All right, everybody. See you later.